Welcome to the Decompression Chamber. I am your host, Andrea, and joining me this week is Gold Star mom, Heather Baker. Heather, thank you so much for coming on this week.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Thanks for letting me talk about this subject.
Oh, absolutely. It's something I think is really important. I saw you on with my friend TC a couple weeks ago, and it was just something that I really had not thought of, and really had not had much personal experience with. I read the Navy Times from time to time, not even now that I'm out, and we hear about sailors dying in training or something like that, and it's always very jarring because you just do not think as domestic service as being nearly that dangerous, and unfortunately, you were personally affected by this with your son Caleb Smithers, and I want to learn more about Caleb's life and following that, what you've been going through. Um, but I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, well, thank you. well, um, could have never imagined that I would be sitting here going through what I'm going through.
No, how
The
could
the front
anyone?
lines of things is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No.
we we families. I'm a teacher
Mm-hmm.
of 20 years.
Wow.
I taught America's children for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it has been my heart to be patriotic
Of
and
course.
to love my country. And
Mm-hmm.
it wore off on my son. He grew up believing in everything that this utopian America world mindset believes in:
Yes.
liberty, justice for all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it came crashing down on the 22nd of January 2020, as 2020 was just like insane for all of us. But it started, this is before
Right.
this,
Before
what
everything
happened.
shut down.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it was starting to, you're hearing hints of it, right?
Sure.
Um, but I never would have ever imagined that my son would die on American soil on a base he swore to defend.
Yeah. It just is unimaginable, just seemingly unconscionable. And as we were talking about earlier, just the amount of time invested in training up a soldier. I mean, a lot of us in the military joke about how we're government property. You know, we have to get permission to get tattoos and things like that. And in a certain sense, okay, the military would take care of their equipment, their Humvees, everything else. Uh, your son, it doesn't seem like such care or regard was given to him, and in some cases, it was just created out of thin air, ex post facto, that oh no, we did do our due diligence to make sure this soldier was
Oh,
taken
yeah.
care of, and that wasn't the case.
Oh, no. And even Caleb's Colonel Otan, Scotty Otan, he told me himself that Caleb was checked on.
Yeah,
And,
just
when
unconscionable.
I just can't, that's hard to hear from a colonel. And like, I can see the truth right there that he
Yeah.
wasn't. It's like, how can you say that? And then the command come to Lubbock, to my hometown, and deliver this right here
Mm-hmm.
that says, their explanation is it says no standard protocol in place to check on an injured soldier on their base, Fort Bragg, that takes up over 4 counties.
Yeah,
What?
it doesn't make
The
sense.
home of the special forces? There's
Yeah.
no protocol on base to check on PV2 Caleb Smither, who
Yeah,
was gung ho. He was 12 points away from a perfect PT score.
that's
His
crazy.
goals included um, his goals were all like ranger, sapper, hotel 8, um, all these, like he was 19.
Yeah.
He was full of like like eagerness. You couldn't talk him out of it. He wasn't going to
Obviously
be
not, because
and
you
he
follow
was
the timeline. He graduates high school, he is going into the army. I
girl.
mean, there's
He,
no like senior summer, any of that stuff. He is ready to go.
he was begging me at 17. He was begging me,
Yeah.
and I was like, honey, just like you're, because he was pretty popular at his school.
Hmm. Well, and a
He,
guy like that, yeah, just as motivated and driven as he was, and is like you're saying. I mean, obviously a natural athlete with those kind of PT scores. I mean, yeah,
right, right, and he was just only going to get better. He was just, he was. This was his first and final duty station. TC actually mentioned he didn't get to do his first jump,
yes, yeah. That
which
was
is a
something that I
huge
didn't.
deal. Huge, he said, and I'm like, I thought it was huge too, but nobody else seemed to think it was a big deal over
Right.
there. Like, and Colonel Otan's telling me, hey, we are always like, we treat our paratroopers like they're our own
Well,
children. And if that's the case, Ben, you better watch out. I guess over there, because as I'm tracking, Enrique Roman Martinez, who actually literally lost his head, was under the same colonel. So
wow.
what's going on here? I'm
That's
calling after I found out, and this is kind of jumping forward a little
no,
bit, but
that's all
the
right.
same doctor that gave Caleb care is still working on base at Fort Bragg in the Womack Army Medical Center.
I mean that's just unconscionable because uh, the best the one of the many ways to get better at
Hey,
anything to improve, whether it's a system, your own performance, is you have to take responsibility for mistakes, and that just does not appear to be happening. It's just cover up after
absolutely.
cover up.
And
And
if the best that you can do for Caleb, that's the best that you could do for your own kids. That's what you're saying,
yeah,
right,
that's what's
Colonel?
scary.
So,
Does he have any
America,
children?
that's true, then that's the best they can do for any of us.
Yeah.
You think it's just, oh, that just happened to PB2 Caleb's when they're no.
No.
Here's the statistics: 75% of our service members die non-combat deaths.
That's staggering to me.
This is recent congressional research. Of that 75%, 93% die on U.S. soil. That's staggering. That's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Uh, that's way higher of a number than I would have possibly imagined. Um, and you do see that a lot of times. If you look at combat deaths, whether it's the Civil War or World War II,
Right.
a lot of people die of disease, and but then you look at non-combat related, and those are all pretty high, and it's just a head scratcher of what's going on. And now we're in 20, you know new century. Are we getting better? Are we, what's going on? And this statistics are still off the charts. Just seems unreal. In a
Yeah,
training environment where you should be learning, you should be getting better because you might be going into something a little more serious, a lot less safe. And by no means does it look like anyone's prepared.
right. Yeah, and you would think that they would have the best care, right? I mean,
Yes.
we families are sold that. They're sold this
Yes.
idea, and in the from the recruiting standpoint. And it pains me when I see a young person going into the military these days, and I say, hey, so what's your reason?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, it's college and that's it. And I'm like, oh, ew. Do you
Yeah.
know the statistics? Like, we families, please, please, please educate yourself. Like, I have it out there. It's just go to CALEBSMITHER.com, and you can find the statistics that I'm referring to right now. The
Mhm.
GAO also did some statistics or research. Here's their statistics: 1 out of 6 of their medical providers is certified to or accredited to do their job. 1 out of 6. And
What?
then they have independent contractors that they're hiring, um, to serve as doctors on their military bases,
Uh-huh.
and then they're denying claims because of that,
Unbelievable.
medical malpractice claims.
Uh, yeah,
There's
there
so
has
many
to
things
be
to do.
accountability.
Like there has to be accountability.
It,
You know.
yeah, it's just staggering to me, and I don't meet a lot of young people or old people for that matter looking to go into the military. Um, the few people I do, I mean, it's you know, I want to serve my country, or the more realistic, I want to blow stuff up. Admirable. I'm
Okay,
not gonna.
too.
At least you know what you're getting
I'm okay with
into.
that too.
Yeah, but then you talk to people who really still believe like I want to serve my country, or they just don't,
Yeah,
as you say, they don't have an accurate view, and it's like
yeah.
it makes me feel initially a little bit better because I'm so cynical to have someone that full of hope, but at the same time it's like meeting like a 12-year-old who still believes in Santa Claus. You're
Well,
like,
yours,
oh,
you have seen the underbelly of it from your perspective, and we civilians are still out here living the dream,
right,
you know,
right,
in our heads to a degree. I mean, I'm a teacher.
yeah, yeah,
You know, we serve it up that way to our students.
for
I'm
sure.
an elementary school teacher. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
So
What grade do you teach?
I'm an art teacher, so I teach the whole
Oh,
school,
okay. Oh,
pre-K
wow.
through 4th grade. So,
Okay.
like for instance, here's a point in case. When Caleb was home for hometown recruiting between getting his airborne wings at Benning
Mhm.
and coming back to Lubbock between when he went to Bragg,
Mhm.
he came out with his recruiter, and they spent the whole day in my little elementary school. If
Oh, that's
I say
cool.
little, if we have 800 kids,
Whoa.
approximately 800. And so we pushed all of those kids through my classroom
Mhm.
in one day so that he could see, so he could, talk to them
Yeah,
about his experience.
that's
And
awesome.
what what better way to recruit than young minds like that?
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
That leaves an
So we were
indelible
all
mark.
about building the team.
Of course.
And I had no idea. No idea. I can't wait for you to meet Terry Caserta and her husband Patrick Caserta. Uh, the boys over there at the Vet Nation, they did a podcast with her and
Mhm.
her husband talking about Brandon. You were a Navy person
Mhm.
yourself, right?
Yes.
And so Brandon, he's he was in SEAL training,
Mhm.
and he encountered some medical malpractice, in my opinion, some things,
Yeah.
um, and that ultimately led to his death. And
Man.
his death was due to toxic abusive leadership,
Oh,
and
jeez.
I believe medical malpractice. But it, you know, and they just passed the Brandon Act,
Good.
and implement they just put it into I guess I think it was like earlier in May, like the 1st of May, the DoD finally, after 2 years, they finally implemented it. So, like, I'm the reason I'm telling you about Terry and Patrick is because I would not be here
Mhm.
them, without
Right.
them reaching out and seeing my posts
Yeah. Yeah.
about what I was walking through.
Yeah. Oh, it's
You
important
know,
to have community for something like that. It's so difficult to go through, and to have people who understand and who have blazed some of the trail of getting answers and corrections to the problems that exist that led to such tragedies. It's very
right.
important to have that.
Well, we have to, because these are high profile cases that nobody's speaking out about except for you, you
Hmm.
guys, the folks over at Vet Nation, and of course TC and his podcast. I'm so grateful. Anyone that will let us like share,
Hmm.
because yeah, experience, strength, and hope, of course, right?
Absolutely.
But like we've got a serious problem going on here.
Definitely. I there I have read about that where, someone dies in SEAL training, and I think there's kind of this thought of, well, I mean, it's so difficult, like it could happen, and it's like, no. This training is run by serious professionals. Now, sometimes, someone has a heart condition, just somehow something got missed, some really freak accident, maybe, once a
Well,
decade or something. But the some of the stuff that they do, like you say, they get more and more. The instructors have a tendency to get more and more sadistic. They want to be meaner than their instructors were to them, and
the
safety
same
precautions are
instructor
overlooked.
after what they did to Brandon, um, they turned around and a couple hours later, another um, SEAL, I don't know if it was a SEAL training, but another service member, they actually killed him, and it was proven homicide. So
My
like
God.
it was amping up to something really bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, like I think you need to definitely interview. This is my
Yeah. No,
plug
I'm
for service.
definitely
Please
open to that.
interview them because like we need to like join together, join forces. We need all the families that this is a very painful subject. It's really hard
Of
because these are
course.
not that does like they don't get like it's not the same. It's not the same as a combat situation. And
Right.
these families, we shrink away. Where it's very painful
Yeah.
because it's not the same, and it's not the same after death either.
No. No.
So
How could it be? And
we need the families to come forward and tell
yes,
their stories too.
a-
So I'm
absolutely.
around. I'm always available for anybody that wants to you know reach out. Like I mean,
I
I've learned so much on what to do next
mhm,
through Terry
good.
Patrick, through Cami Del Barba, who
Mhm,
her son Des Del Barba, he's a wounded warrior. Like these people have been my lifeline.
good. I'm so glad that you have that support because
Yeah,
just listening to your story on TC's show, just about the type of man that Caleb was, really impressive individual and someone I wish I could have met, and just what
human kind.
yeah, what and just what happened to him, and we'll touch on that here briefly. But so in January, I mean, because he got to his command shortly after Thanksgiving, or he flew out there Thanksgiving Day,
Yep,
2019.
that's
Uh-huh.
right.
And as TC pointed out, within a week of being at the new command, it's expected that a paratrooper will have a jump with his unit, and he had been there 7 weeks with no jump, and this is before any sort of COVID protocols, any sort of shutdown. So it's
Yeah,
really
they
very
failed
odd
him
there. Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
absolutely.
Or
And
yeah,
certainly it's difficult to pick up on as it's happening, but it sounds like he was very close with you and spoke or at least texted with you often. But then you got a text about a week before he passed that he just didn't feel like talking. And that seemed very strange.
well,
And
I got a text from him a couple days really before he died. As I look back at it now,
mm,
the Army's version is they say the 21st of January is when he died. That's
mm,
not possible because his body was in the fifth stage of decomposition when it was found.
my God.
So there's no way that his body could be deceased on the 21st of January.
Right.
Also, on the 15th of January, the proof is in the phone records, which the Army would refuse to open his phone. So
Inexcusable.
I ordered his phone records, had to have my congressman reach out to AT&T. They had to help me get his phone records. Um,
Unbelievable.
I'm sure there's going to be lots of good stuff on there when I can get his actual phone um, opened somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
or if I can at least get the text messages, it'd be nice. But
Right.
anyway, regardless, the 15th of January is when the early morning of the 15th of January,
Mm-hmm.
he stops responding to any text messages and phone calls. And so up until that point, he was responding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but these young people, man, like, and we, any of us, like,
Yeah.
we text a lot. We share a lot throughout the day. And Caleb, he was one of those kids that was just like always communicating
Yes.
with friends.
Absolutely.
And then of course, there's gonna be the way these paratroopers were communicating was on a group text message.
Okay. Yeah.
So nothing in the investigation whatsoever has ever been mentioned about a group text message and what was even said or spoken of in those group text messages. I would think that that would be a really important part
Mm-hmm.
piece
Yeah.
of what's going on here. What was spoken about
Yes.
in those text
Communication's
messages?
key.
Yeah,
Yeah. And if it's
you
innocuous,
know,
then who cares?
right. Redact. They're going to redact everything anyway. So why not let's see the text messages?
Absolutely.
But they're not even a part of the investigation. I'm so stunned by that.
That's
Um,
insane.
Sorry, I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but I know this case inside and out. And so, what's next? Ask
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's the other thing that we touched on earlier is just that he had hit his head, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then there's some controversy with that because you know about when that happened because Caleb had a Snapchat up about that, but then his chain of command disputed that and gave the wrong date of when it occurred, when he actually went to the hospital, and
Yeah.
that's not matching up either. And there just doesn't seem to be any sort of accountability, any sort of correction, or anyone who can give any clear answer as to what was happening. Certainly
Mm-hmm.
not in his chain of command.
Oh, of course not. No, they were just damage controlling me the whole time, making sure, even after I went up there to his memorial, I'd have, and I know it's normal for them to call and check on me. I know that.
Hmm.
But I also know when there's a feeling of, hey, just checking just checking,
Right. Right. Yeah,
you
you're
know,
the
and that,
whole "you're not going to sue us" vibe. You
well,
know.
we can't, there's no way we could sue them because of the Ferris Doctrine.
Uh,
The Ferris Doctrine bars, it's in the Ferris Doctrine, it's a case law.
hmm.
And it, there's a history of how it became. My attorney Daniel, he does a great job explaining it, and I think that Vet Nation did a podcast with him, and then TC also did a podcast with him. So anyway, he's really good at explaining like how the Ferris Doctrine works and how it all came together. But
Hmm.
basically, there's a clause in there, incidents of service.
Hmm.
We need Congress to define incidents to service. What does that mean?
Right. Right.
Like, because blatant murder, negligent homicide, medical malpractice,
Yes.
these things are cannot be
Hmm.
incidents to service
Yeah.
like that.
Like
And then
yeah.
to say that you can't sue,
Yeah.
you can't sue
Or just have any
or
semblance of
whatever.
recourse. Just
Exactly.
some
So when
clear
I say
answers.
sue, I guess it means accountability.
Hmm.
You have
Yeah.
no accountability whatsoever. So even if it's like judicial
Hmm.
punishment,
Right.
that would be a, you know, an avenue, right?
Yeah, it's
There's
justice
no
for
recourse
Caleb.
whatsoever, right? Yeah. So, um,
Yeah, just
yeah,
simply
and
unconscionable. But now,
so
uh,
they so they did an amendment, so to speak, of this
mhm,
Ferris Doctrine a couple years back. The Stiesel Act came about. Richard Stiesel, I believe he'd had cancer. He'd gotten his medical records, and it was shown that they knew about his cancer the whole time. And so, anyway, the Sty School Act came about, and they just denied his claim, his own claim, the namesake of the Sty School Act. They just denied his. So they
Amazing.
denied Phillips' claim as well. And I'm not surprised if they get denied Seisel's claim. They're going to deny. They have all these little loopholes written
Of
in
course.
the DOD's version, right? They get to make the rules up.
Yeah. I wish I
Congress
had balls the
law,
size
they
of the
get to make up the
government. Like,
rules up.
I'd use them for
And
good,
so
but
basically, they just say, like in Caleb's case, they say, he doesn't qualify because the person that was responsible, if he was responsible, question mark,
yeah.
if he was responsible as a independent contractor. Yet that independent contractor I called the second I found out his name, and he's still working there with the Womack Army Medical Center. And the reason that going through a court and doing this the right way is
Hmm.
the right way to do this, and it is because it holds people accountable. It has the opportunity to hold people accountable, and that's
Right.
important. We have to be able to do that.
Yes.
We
Abs-
have to be able to do that because if they, this is at this point, it's created a culture
hmm.
wrapped up around this kind of stuff, and let it like shirking responsibility.
Yeah.
Just not giving a care.
Hmm.
Being lazy.
Yes. Yeah. They seem to be putting more work into covering their
Technology.
tracks than just doing things right the first time. That's what's maddening. I,
How are you going to conduct yourself in a real battle,
yeah.
friends?
Yeah.
That's
You're
what I
not.
want.
You're not
This is
training for
how
it.
you're conducting yourself here, because in the creeds it talks about basically that all of this is training.
Yes.
Every day, every moment is training.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the creeds are important. We
Yes.
need to go back to the language of the creeds and really sink into them and look at what they say.
Hmm. Yeah, the military is not just a job. This is the type of structure
No,
that.
when you're offering your life,
No, yeah.
you've got to you've got to follow something.
Yes, yeah, you
You
have to
know,
have something much
you have
stronger to believe in because it
to have
surely is not
leaders
the paycheck.
that inspire you.
Yes, because that's
Who is
probably why you
inspiring
joined.
these young people these days?
Yeah.
They just want to go, he's not one of us. Let's get rid of him.
I mean, it
What's
almost
what
seems
is
that
it?
way. Now, with the incident where he hit his head and he went to the emergency room, the care provider was a contractor, correct?
Um, they're saying that the person that saw him on the 15th of January, which is the last day Caleb was alive,
Hmm.
according to his decomposition,
Right.
you know, then this person, the independent contractor, was on the 15th. He saw somebody on the 14th,
Hmm.
saying was military related, and then he was turned away on the 13th of January
Oh man.
from the Womack Army Medical Center. And the leadership, I believe his first sergeant is one of the ones who, you know, spoke about, in Caleb's investigation that, confirmed that that was the 13th. And of course, they try to explain it away later.
Of course. Of course.
but I'm sorry, no.
Now,
Mm-mm.
why would he have been turned away? I mean, they're just that lazy they don't want to do the paperwork or what? I mean, that seems crazy to me that they.
I don't know, but I've heard a lot of people. I've had people contact me and let me know
Hmm.
that their their brother was turned away, or their husband was turned away, or you know, I'm not sure why they're doing that. Like, if I mean, I don't understand.
No, and
I don't understand. Do they not? They. I know sometimes look at um these young kids like, oh, you just got a little boo boo. Go back to your room.
Well,
You know,
and I used to be on ski patrol, so I had,
right.
basically the equivalent of an EMT, and we always said there no head wound is minor. There's so much stuff going on in there. Someone says they hit their head, like you take that extremely seriously. You're checking things as much as we can, and we strongly advise people you need to go to the emergency room. And if I've gone to the emergency room once or twice from head wounds, and it's like, okay, CT scan, we need to check for bleeding, because
Was that the
oftentimes
first
that's where it
time
happens.
when you on the first time you went, or was it on because they only did that on the last time Caleb went.
And what did they find anything, or
What
did they
they
even review
found
his results?
was evidence of swelling in the sinuses, which
Oh.
which acute bacterial meningitis, which is ultimately what they said that he died from. Which anyway, we'll get there, but
Mm-hmm.
I have my questions about that. Uh, they're saying that he died of acute bacterial meningitis.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Swelling in the sinuses is one of those key signs
Okay.
of that. He was even having a hard time. He had to wear like night vision goggles.
That's what you're saying. That's so
Yeah,
crazy to me.
yeah. He had to wear night vision goggles. He wore them into formation, I believe, on the 14th, the
Mm.
morning of the 14th. It was the only way could get to formation. I think he was late. And Caleb was not one of those kids that was just a slacker.
Right.
Even they told me whenever I went over, they told me what a hard worker he was,
Yeah.
and they told me some funny stories about him running to chase the military cops down because they kept passing by the barracks and missing where they were calling him to. And they
uh,
had this guy like restrained or something, and they're like, Caleb, go chase those guys down. They keep missing the place. So they were like, we have never seen anybody run so fast.
Good. They
He
picked
was
the right
all
man
in.
for the job.
Whatever he wanted to do, he was going to do it with his fullest. So there were no complaints, or were there?
Yeah. I well, and the
Something that happened to PB2 Caleb Smither, because it said in the toxicologist said in her report that it would raise red flags at the command
mhm.
because no prophylactic was needed on for anyone that was around Caleb because it's highly contagious. Nobody
Yes, it
needed.
is.
And so she said herself that no prophylactic was needed. It would raise red flags at the command because no prophylactic was needed.
That
How does that happen? Because
yeah.
there were people that were in direct contact with Caleb about, as far as I can tell, you know, at least 5 or 6 people,
Yeah.
and like a bunch of other, if he's in a formation situation, like I mean,
Oh yeah, you're in close quarters
like
at all the time. I mean, the only time it's eclipsed is when you're in boot camp,
so,
but
and his roommate, not you know, no,
mhm.
his roommate. I don't. I wish I knew who his roommate was, and if in fact,
You
if
don't even know
anybody
that.
no, if
They've never.
anybody does know, please come forward and tell me who PV2 Caleb Smithers' roommate was. Please, it would really help me out.
Wow.
This person needs to be reinvestigated. There's several people that need to be reinvestigated, but
Of
there's
course.
something else going on here.
Mhm.
Um, who sprays Febreze to cover up the smell of a dead body? What
Y-
roommate would do that? They're
Yeah.
in a, they're in like they're sharing quarters, like they have a common area,
Mhm.
a bathroom, and then they have their own two separate rooms, right?
Yep.
So they're living in sort of like a little apartment situation, I
Mhm.
guess, in one of the barracks. And, you know, I mean, there's another service member, paratrooper, the corporal. Everything's redacted, so I say corporal redaction.
Right. Right.
Like, um, he's saying that he spoke with PV2 Caleb Smithers' roommate, and the roommate said, something about Febreze and that his room really smelled like shit. And he's like, the corporal's like, well, you should go check on him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
y'all, all of you, if you're hearing that, corporal, you should also go checking on him. So the corporal tells the CID that he checked on Caleb on the 17th of January.
Hmm.
But guess who the only person that checked on PV2 Caleb Smither on the 17th of January was? Me. I was the only phone call on the 17th.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But this is the answers they're giving me. It's even in here on their own like calendar and timeline, how they have it, the last known contact and all this stuff. I presented my own calendar
Hmm.
of facts
Yeah, you
that
have
I
to.
share with you. Um, yeah, they're saying the last known contact was the 17th of January, right here.
Hmm.
And I handed the entire the people that showed up in my congressman's office that day that came down to present me this.
Hmm.
I slid across the table to each one of them a little manila envelope full of evidence, my own evidence.
Good.
And I said, I'm going to just give you a moment to look over Caleb's phone records then.
Yeah. And
And
did they?
they told me they were not here to really answer any questions. They're just here to deliver a message, basically.
Ugh.
So, you know,
So much for
it's been,
representing.
yeah, it's been a very, very interesting. But yeah, there's just been so much, it was hard for me to get Caleb's belongings.
That
You know,
that too is
about months.
absolutely
It
crazy.
was ridiculous. And I had to basically beg Fort Hood on their public page, 3 Corps,
Hmm.
um, for his belongings,
Er,
and of course that got sent to the Department of the Army, and I got a phone call through my casualty assistance officer. Hey, Miss Baker, the head of these offices, the casualty assistance offices, wants to meet with you. I'm like, okay,
okay. Yeah. Seems
because
odd.
well, I needed my son's belongings, and
Of
so
course.
they finally, um, I had to make all that noise just to get somebody to help me with it.
It shouldn't be that way at all. It's
You know,
very very simple. And the other striking thing about the story is that uh, you found out, when you were on TC show, you mentioned that it took them 3 weeks to get Caleb home, which is just what?
it was going to take them 3 weeks. If my congressman, Jody Arrington, had not helped me
Hmm.
by sending a letter off and requesting, like, hey, more information about this, I think he might even made a phone call over there. But
Probably,
they were
yeah.
saying 3 weeks, and um, he was able to help get Caleb home sooner,
Good, good.
which was more like a week and a half, maybe,
Which
maybe
even that is a
because
crazy timeline.
yeah. So just so much hassle. Like
I and it shouldn't
red
be that
flags
way.
from the beginning. Like they told me a whole week after they initially notified me that Caleb's body was too decomposed to be viewable. Here I was calling up the funeral home and making arrangements for an open casket, right?
Right,
Because
that's what you're thinking.
I'm like this
That's
is
what
an
any
overwhelming
rational person would
situation, and
think.
I realized that I could either lay down
Hmm.
or I could move forward one little bite at a time. And that was the first big bite I had to take.
Yeah. Oh, that's
And then to
horrible.
find out that all of the preparations I'd already made that were heart wrenching,
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to prepare myself, my mind, and my daughter, her mind,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then I had to tell her, hey, I'm sorry. I have to tell you that you'll never, you know, he's, how do I tell her?
Yeah.
His body,
Oh, it's
his,
horrifying.
like she's 13,
Yeah.
like what?
No one should have to go through that. It's
So, like, it's just horrifying. And then, so yeah, there was some big red flags from the beginning, just
yeah.
um, one after another. Really, I had to be the first person to call the command. My casualty assistance officer said, Miss Baker, has anybody from the command reached out to you yet? And I was like, what?
Or
No.
yeah. Well, yeah.
So
How are you supposed to know?
oh well, I guess I need to start calling them. Because I didn't know what the deal was.
There needs to be like a next of kin bill of rights where just okay, command has failed here. We need
Well,
recourse here.
also they were supposed to notify you within 4 hours, I believe, of a death.
Mm-hmm.
They notified me next day.
Unconscionable.
I know. So like I looked it up and there it is. They're supposed to notify you within 4 hours.
Unbelievable. I I'm the one one of the things in the military is they tell you about defense in depth. I call it redundancies, but just okay, well there could be a point of failure here, but there's this other thing kind of shoring it up. So if that fails, this thing will be there so this can be successful. And just there's so many points of failure in this. There's no redundancies, there's no defense in depth, however you want to call it. It just suggests that this incompetence is endemic and intentional, and they have
Allowed.
yeah, they have no desire, or and there's been no effort made to change it, because that would involve, as you've pointed out, taking responsibility and changing their ways, and all they're concerned about is saving their careers, covering up their tracks, and going back to again the care provider. I mean, you point out that okay, he died of bacterial meningitis and no one needed prophylactics, and it just so happened to happen at the same time that he was hit in the head that they didn't check on.
And they said that his head injury had nothing to do with his death.
How do they know? How could they know?
They said that there was no like head wounds, visible head wounds.
Well, visible
And
sounds like we didn't bother doing a CAT scan.
so like they didn't in the beginning. Well, first of all, he wasn't allowed to go to the ER. They turned him away the first time he sought help. The next time he was so sick, he couldn't even make it to formation and he came out in night vision goggles. He also made a phone call to a friend. I have this horrifying, the sound of the last sound of my son's voice is him whimpering and crying in pain and
Mm,
asking, just, it hurts.
yeah. Oh my god.
And even this young lady that came over and put a little towel on his head, she didn't get it.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
she
know,
doesn't understand.
and she was gag ordered, by the way.
Gag ordered
Yeah, I have
on
proof of that. Not told not to that she could not talk about it unless she talked about it to her command or um, the CID.
that is
So
circling the
she
wagons.
sent that to me in a text message, and I have it.
Wow. That
And
right
then
there.
they
What's going on,
denied the
people?
gag order. They denied that it existed, and I said, "Well, here it is."
Yeah. What, so now you're calling her a
Sorry, I
liar?
don't mean to get her in trouble, but
Well,
I'm
but
not
you need
going
answers,
to
and they seem
tell
to
the
have
truth
no interest in
anymore.
providing
Like,
any. And
be
if they do,
honest. I'm a teacher. I've been an investigator for 20 years.
yeah, 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 you have to figure out stuff all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're dealing with little kids that lie and withhold the truth. Of course, they're a little more obvious sometimes.
Sure,
But I
sure.
I did say to the CID guy one time. I said, "Hey, I've heard better excuses from my fourth graders."
Right?
And he instantly got defensive, and the line shut down, cut off,
Oh, of
because my
course.
casualty assistance officer saved his butt.
Oh boy.
He was about to say something really bad. He, yeah, he told me not to insult him, and I said, "Hey, listen here,"
Yeah.
and the line shut down.
Holy cow. I
You're
just
talking to you're not talking to Susie Q off the street.
right.
No, whatever.
Well, and
You guys killed my son.
yeah, and nobody seems to have any remorse or compassion
No.
or anything. It's just how can we get this behind us as soon as possible and just pretend like it
And
never even
Caleb was
happened.
so driven and like looked up to all of those people.
Yeah.
Every time I spoke to him on the phone, he was always talking to me about what order he was going to do all this stuff in.
Yeah, he
Right
had dreams.
first, that first. What's going to happen? Well, I think now, Mom, I think the best thing is I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do that. And it was just a conversation like that every single time.
That's
And
great.
him quoting the Soldier's Creed and the Airborne Creed and singing their songs, and because he had a
Yeah.
beautiful voice and he loved to sing, and so he was just gung ho for all of it. He was all in. And
That's
Caleb is the ultimate left behind. But who's next?
yeah. Yeah.
And who else is out there? What other families are out there that we don't know about because they're in too much pain
Yeah.
to speak out or read the investigations or talk about it?
I I can't imagine, reading the details
Oh
of
God. Yeah.
yeah, it has to be really difficult, but like you said in making funeral arrangements for Caleb, just that you're taking one step at a time to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if someone's going through this, what do you recommend for first steps in terms of getting in touch with community? I mean, I mean, getting in touch with you,
Yeah, there's
obviously.
lots of us out there. You can reach out to Heather Hedge Baker on Facebook. That's me. Terry Caserta of the Brandon Act. You can just go to the Brandon Act or the Brandon Caserta Foundation, any of those places. There's so many of us that will help, you
I
know.
will I will put those links in the YouTube
Whatever,
description for
yes,
sure.
yes, I'll give you all those. Um, you know, I would say first thing is stop, take a deep breath, and have your own independent autopsy done before you bury your service member.
Hmm.
That's pretty much step number one.
Yeah.
And in the same step, I would say get a hold of, if you start seeing these red flags, like I was talking about earlier, things that you just like, okay, this doesn't feel right, seem right, like
Yeah.
you get a hold of your congressperson.
Yes.
Okay, you got to get a hold of them right off the bat.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I mean, I some people just can't, share. Like I'm a pretty much an open book.
Hmm.
It was really hard for me to um, go against the beauty of the military. I felt like I know there are people that probably feel like my activism tarnishes it a little bit. And it's not that it tarnishes it, it's just that I'm showing what the truth is, and what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
And so it can be beautiful, and there are amazing commands out there that lead valiantly and do the
Yes.
right thing with human kindness and are true to the um, creeds that they sign up to follow and live by.
Hmm.
And those are the people that I just I thank you so much for leading that way. And let's cut out the bad. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, the underbelly of the beast is here, but it's like, does it, like, we need to, like, we got to make a shift soon. Like, there's got to be some, you know, what's happening to our kids now is happening to our veterans, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so like it's just an epidemic all across the board. You know, I just mentioned the service members in service right now, 75% dying non-combat deaths. What about our veterans?
Yeah. Oh, that's a huge thing too, and you will hear that from time to time. 22 veteran suicides a day, and you hear about the waiting list at the VA in Arizona,
What?
um,
Yeah,
and just yeah, the
it's
veterans aren't taken care of. It's well, you're not playing an active role anymore, so you're on the back burner, and man, stuff on the back burner tends to just burn out of control.
so that's what I'm saying is this admonishing with all these honors and beauty and, oh, you know, we're making you look so good with all these emblems and all this stuff and saying what a good deeds and all this, but then on the back burner you're turning around and nobody's being taken care of.
Yeah,
Real,
yeah.
like, what?
It's yeah, and that's
The,
why I'm certainly not really one for lobbying efforts. I mean, as much as I work and everything else, I'm it's very difficult. But I joined my dad's VFW post. I joined my local American Legion. It's hey, even if my dues, 35 $40 a year, whatever for each of these organizations, at least they're going to some lobbying to help out veterans and lobby
yeah,
for veterans causes.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
But
Yeah,
we had our national commander come down for dinner here a month or so ago, and what he told us that's happening to active duty service members is just crazy. I mean, we hear about Camp Lejeune in the water, we get ads about that ad nauseum, but
yeah.
I guess something similar out in the barracks in Hawaii, active duty, or
Hmm.
family housing, I think it was. Um, got shut
Yep.
down because the water is bad and or structural integrity it was condemned, and it's like these people have nowhere to go, and it's like these are
Yeah.
active duty service members. Are you crazy? There's nothing you can do in Hawaii.
Do you know Melissa Godoy of Military Slumlord?
No, no, I'd love to talk to her.
She's got a, yeah, I'll have to get you in touch with her. But she, like her whole thing is about like the barracks and housing, military housing, and just shedding light on that,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And she's taken a lot of personal heat in her own family for it, you know, for her own activism. And she's a military wife
yeah,
with a husband who's still in service. So
yeah.
like they are a force to be reckoned with, that
Yes.
family.
Yeah, well, yeah, military spouses in general
I'm
certainly
telling you,
are. I work with a
she's
few of
the
them.
other one that's been a lifeline to me. And I just
Good.
appreciate like when military families come to me like that, you know, and they say justice for Smitty, justice for PV2 Caleb Smither, you know.
Yeah.
Veterans like yourself, you know, like it's good for me because it helps with my own grief process to go, okay, I'm not insane here. Like other people are seeing it too, right?
Yes,
You
absolutely.
know, because it's such a you feel so closed off, and the things that you're reading in these investigations are so shocking. And who do you share it with? Like,
Yeah.
do I share it with my mom who loved my son? Like, do I share? Like, it's been hard to break it to people,
Yes.
you know?
Well,
And then
yeah.
people don't want to deal with it. They don't want to. They don't want to like. I have to kind of soak in it because I have to. That's what investigation is.
Yes. Yeah, you do have to be immersed in it, and it is difficult because people might want to broach the topic, but they really don't understand how, or they want to avoid perhaps uh delving triggering more of your grief or something like that. But I
Mm.
mean, it does need to be talked about, and what's really going to help with your grief is ultimately getting more people informed on it and helping out, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
supporting if there's legislation such as like the Brandon Act, um, that keep this from happening, and for other military families to be aware of this, because here I was a decade in, no idea, totally
Absolutely.
oblivious. But demanding accountability for from those who are still serving and for those still serving other chain of commands.
That's right.
Uh,
We like what you guys do, what our service members do is so beautiful and valuable. Lives are so valuable. Like you are our most valued, I think, or
yeah,
should be in America. And the way we treat our service members really echoes the state and well-being of our nation.
it
And as you can see, it's falling apart.
well, yeah, it's recruits are a precious resource because you have to figure, what are they saying now? Only 13% who walk through the door are qualified to serve. I mean, it's some insane number where and branches are having difficulty meeting their recruiting goals, and it's just, you're not going to conserve this precious and obviously very finite and diminishing in capacity resource, and that's how you conduct yourself. That's how you manage your people. It's
And
insane.
they're saying that that's part of why the recruiting numbers are going down is because of stories like Caleb's, stories like Brandon's. And, here we have our veterans who have families of their own and they're going, no, 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 no. We're
Yeah.
not doing that. We're not doing that. That's not going to happen to you like it happened to me or whatever, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And
Right.
I definitely believe in molding I'll use the term soldier just from my end
Mm-hmm.
as a army, but it's, like that, I think it's an art.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's an art. It's a craft. You've got to be crafty about it. You can't, I think that it's important to be like hard and 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 do the things that need to be, said or whatever to break off some of the ways about ourselves that cause us to not be confident,
Mm-hmm.
and to mold us into confident, valiant warriors,
Yeah.
Uh, but then there's a line that people just keep crossing and that just keeps, like, um, not, there's also, you know, people are just, they come from different walks of life.
Yes.
We all have so much baggage in so many different areas. We're not all the same,
Right. Yeah.
and so like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that it's uh, like they're not expecting greatness
Mm-hmm.
from the get-go. They're not expecting
Yeah.
that, from the very beginning.
They're
So
expecting
what
dedication and aptitude. We'll train you the rest of the way.
yeah, I mean, and then they're saying, "Hey, we'll give you this money, we'll give you, this degree," and they're making all these promises to lure them in,
Yeah.
um, and then not protecting them. Fine, lure them in, but then don't protect them like on their own territory. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It really is poor.
Too many outcries of abuse, of neglect now here. Caleb's case, like, to me, like, I look at Caleb's case and I go, that is the easiest way to save somebody's life is to check on them,
Yeah. All you had to do. It's so
to be
unbelievably simple.
vigilant, to actually give a care, to
Yeah.
have a human kindness.
Yeah.
That has to be modeled.
Yeah. And
And
and, and
that's
it's
why
clear
leadership
that,
needs to be held accountable.
well, and it's not just leadership, but I mean the roommate. That's the one that
He would
drives
be a
me.
part of leadership. He would be a part of that leadership chain.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just nobody up and down held themselves accountable, did anything, and
No.
ran away as
But
far away as they could get from the fallout.
yeah, the temperature in Caleb's room was 71 degrees. His body was found in the fifth stage of decomposition. That's putrefaction and
Mm.
mummification. That's past rigor mortis. That's well past
Oh,
rigor mortis,
yeah. I mean,
right?
because we're talking
I
5 or 6 days
didn't know.
at
I
this
had to
point.
look it up because I read
Yeah.
that. I was like, fifth stage again. I was like, what is that? I don't know what this means. Oh, putrefaction, mummification. Oh my gosh, his
Oh,
hand mummified.
God. How horrifying. Ugh.
It's what's I think the other thing part of this is me having to um, fill out FOIAs in order to get, unredacted or even things that they owe me. Like, as far as they redacted his photos, they call them the death scene photos
Mm-hmm.
from the CID investigation. I was like, hello,
Yeah.
could I please get those? Please. So, you know what they sent me?
What?
They sent me um, a PDF that it was just the page, like just a regular white piece of paper with the really black, it was black and white and pixelated death scene photos.
Like
It was
taken
like
with a flip phone?
six of them on a page, and so you can't really,
Yeah, you can't tell what's happening.
can't see what's, and they're in black and white. And I'm like, why would you give me black and white when you gave me his autopsy photos in full color?
Oh my
Ask me
God.
how I know that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, unfortunately, the thing is that in order to hold these people accountable, you have to know for yourself what the truth is,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and sometimes you have to do hard things. And that was a hard thing. Listening to his voice on that voice memo or the
Mm-hmm.
answering machine,
Yeah,
that was hard to listen to, very hard. I
yeah.
cried my
Well,
cried my head off the first time I actually finally saw a picture of Caleb,
yeah.
because I didn't see him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that did me, even though it was a really gross picture,
Mm-hmm.
I somehow needed that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
needed just to be able to say that was him.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, I cried for about 30 minutes
Oh
on
yeah. I can't.
somebody's lap. It was
I.
bad.
It's difficult, even as you're saying this, to comprehend that someone could go through that. I can't imagine going through it myself. I mean, it's like I think about it, my brain just goes 404 error code. It just doesn't compute.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm pretty numb.
I
I
would
feel like a
imagine you have to be.
zombie, honestly. My heart is just a wreck.
We tell ourselves like, no, I no matter what, I want to know the truth, and we say this about whatever it might be, if with work or relationships, but something like this, in order to give yourself closure, I think is more difficult than most people could possibly construct in their wildest imaginations.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's you have to be committed to it, and you also have to have some people around you that also see the um blatant um misconduct and
Hmm.
unaccountability. I mean, it helps to have that validation and have people around you that go, okay, yes, that's not good.
Yeah, yeah,
It holds you up, you know. And I was really getting close to just wanting to. I just was ready to shut it down, like make the
yeah.
bleeding stop.
Of course.
And had another Gold Star mom and my friend Cami Del Barba, her son, as I mentioned, Des Del Barba, a wounded warrior, and
Hmm.
she's I call it the Cami Del Barba justice checklist checklist.
Okay, okay.
So she's like telling me, okay, now do this, now do that, now do this. And I'm going, okay, yes, got that done, got this done,
Good.
called that person. So it helps to have a supportive team around you so that you don't quit,
Yes.
because it's too easy to quit. I try to motivate myself through exercise,
Good for you.
working out. It's too easy to get caught up in my own head. I have a lot of anxiety due to
Yeah.
this.
I
You
can,
know,
I would
there's a
think.
lot of, they talk about PTSD. Yeah, there's some of that. Everybody has their own version,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
brand of that, but uh it's a feeling that just sweeps you right off your feet on a daily basis. Yeah.
I bet. Yeah.
Um but I'm grateful for um these other families who support me, and my attorney Daniel Maharaj. He's been very encouraging and
Good.
helped so much, and what we've been able to get done for Caleb recently has just really been helpful and motivating and encouraging, because I mean,
Good.
I
Yeah.
came up with this whole thing right out of the chute, boots on the ground. I mean, I was just like this. Da,
Yeah.
da, da, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. And I mean, I hit the ground running. And then after 3 years, I kind of about this last summer, I kind of went, I kind of shut down a little bit,
Well, yeah,
just like,
that is
oh, got
difficult
so
to keep
overwhelmed.
up.
So,
And that's
yeah. So
probably built by design. They figure if we can't, shut her down immediately, time will. And if we could just keep
absolutely.
delaying it. What are some of the recent victories that you and your attorney have achieved for Caleb?
Well, most recently, I was able to have my Congressman Jody Arrington, who I've been working with for the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been trying to figure out like what we've been waiting on the pieces to kind of come together, in Caleb's
Sure.
case, and we were waiting on the medical malpractice claim to kind of come through. And when they denied that, and it just, I think they went, hey, this is no, there's something else going on. So it was able to kind of get them more on board, and pinpoint kind of where we want to take this, which is to reopen Caleb's case.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we would hope would happen. Um, but we were able to get my Senator Ted Cruz to also sign off, or actually, he and Jody Arrington, they crafted this joint letter together
Good.
and signed it. And so this letter is directed to the Secretary of the Army, and it's basically asking to take notice to Caleb's case,
Good.
and to that ultimately we would like to reopen Caleb's case, and but Miss Baker would like a meeting with the
Good.
Secretary of the Army. So it's ultimately for a meeting,
Mm-hmm.
um, um, and also to so that we can discuss like
Yeah.
what happened in Caleb's case, and just kind of alert her to you know what's happening on
Yeah.
with the Army,
Yeah. This is
and
totally
um,
unsat. Yeah.
let her. Now, I just want to. I think here's what I've come to. It's incredibly mind numbing not to be able to do anything.
Oh yeah.
Like,
You're paralyzed.
no, yeah, you're just like in a box and you're banging against a wall. Uh, so what I have been able to understand is that I'm an educator,
Mm-hmm.
and my job in this point is to educate.
Yes.
Yeah, I want all these things. I want a lot of things that I haven't even mentioned. But you can't be upset and angry at everybody if they don't understand or know.
Yeah.
They're not educated.
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal has been to calm down, Take a deep breath and realize that you got this. Like, you're an educator. I've been educating for 20 years. Like,
Yes.
so it's just now I have to educate on something that is really heart wrenching.
Yes.
But ultimately, the statistics don't lie. The,
Mhm.
the, the, the research that they have done themselves,
Mhm.
I'm just going to show it to them again. Like, hey, you did this research some years back, and here's the results of that. And
Yep.
I'm not sure if you guys have looked at it again, but here's the result. Here's one result,
Mhm.
Matt. Let's look at it again.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, that's, I think, my goal is to ultimately, yeah, reopen Caleb's case. But at the basis of this whole thing, I cannot bring Caleb back.
Mhm.
Caleb is
Yeah.
forever in Valhalla, like,
Yes.
but I cannot sit and watch as other families suffer, and
Yeah.
as other members and veterans suffer.
Yeah.
And this silent war is plaguing our good military,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
you're doing work that I don't think that I think it will touch a lot of families. What I don't think will happen is that a lot of families will be aware of the impact that it had on them, because the absence. Hopefully, your work creating an absence of another family going through this. I mean, the
Yes.
absence is the result,
That
and
absolutely is.
yeah,
Yeah. If nobody can relate to me later on, that would be amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Because this is not, they always say, this is not the club you wanted to be in. And
right.
it's
This
true.
is not a community we want to build. It's good to
I love my
find
people, but
already
no,
existing, but
we never know each other.
yeah,
And it's horrifying. We say that to each other sometimes. When I say we, I'm talking, referring to the other Gold Star families that I
hmm,
talk with. But I mean, but we embrace each other heart to heart, and we say our service members must be meeting up there. That's
they
the
have to
only
be.
way we, like, would be like, I found you and you found me,
Yeah,
like, it's been remarkable at the people that I have met and how we've all somehow floated together.
hmm,
I believe that we do have a a really big task at hand, and we have to be the chain, the unbroken chain that was broken for all of our service members and our veterans.
hmm,
And I just, the more we can all gather together with all of our stories, we have to go and present our stories to Congress individually, but then let's get together and come together and present together,
hmm,
because that is impactful. And we
absolutely.
there's but that is very hard for families to
Yeah.
do. You know that I have made, gosh, when Candy Del Barba told me how many emails that she made to her, to the Senate and House Armed Services Committee members, and how she follows up in phone calls, and she follows up in emails, like, it's another
Yeah.
full-time job, you guys, like,
Yeah.
and drain on top of grieving, you're doing this and you're draining,
Oh
and
man.
so it's not for everybody,
No.
and but and that's why there's some legislation out there. There's a one, let's see, called the Hall of Justice, and it's by Manuel. um he Hold on one second.
Hmm.
He has written this. If you go to, let's see, I'll find it for you.
Okay.
um
Yeah. No problem. And we can put. I'll put
it's
the link
called
in the
it's called the
description.
Hall of Justice. Let me find
Okay.
it. um but it would be an independent agency. Um, and it would be an independent agency that would be over, you know, some of these other agencies, and also be able to help families walk through, like, if they see that there is a red flag,
Yes.
then um, then you have somebody that can help walk you through it.
Yes.
Um,
Good. Yeah,
so
you need someone to help you. I mean, you're supposed to just take on the entire army by yourself. Like it's
right.
unconscionable, especially for a family that's grieving.
So if you look up the Hall of Justice, you
Okay.
can read. Yeah, it's petition to Congress, Hall of Justice, and Manuel Gomez is the author, and it's an amazing. It would be an amazing opportunity for all of us. I'm just saying.
Okay. No, I'll definitely put the.
There are other legislations about accountability. I know that people
Mhm.
are writing and would like to see come to fruition. I support all of it.
Yeah.
My goal is to educate and to make sure people know about what's going on, and if that presents other legislation down the, you know, in the future, that would be really amazing.
Hmm.
But you know, I just think that there's a lot of really creative thinkers out there. There's a lot of amazing people.
Definitely.
Surely we can all work together to, find some avenue of justice. Um,
Yes.
First, the Ferris Doctrine needs to be amended somehow.
Hmm.
To, like I mentioned before, incidents to service needs to be defined.
Yes.
Um, So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Whether it's
just one tiny little
negligence.
by time, and I'm sure that the story will keep revealing itself.
Yeah. Well, and it's also just crazy. I mean, talk about moving at the speed of government. That 3 years
Oh,
plus you've been at this, and still no
that's not,
answers. You're still demanding to have Caleb's case opened. You are, of course, making progress, but the
yeah.
timeline is.
Yeah, when you're thinking of it in terms of the government years, 3 years is nothing.
Yeah, it was
Can drag on
an eye
for
blink
10 years. Yeah.
in terms of the
So,
government.
the first one of the first people I met was Shanta Block. Her sister Kamisha Block
Hmm.
died 15,
Hmm.
16 years ago by now, um,
Oh.
and she was murdered
Mm.
um, overseas. And here she was telling me this, when it was like 14 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, these families, they've gone through so much for so long,
Yeah.
and a lot of them just get really tired and lose heart. Then
Oh
another
yeah.
part of their might pick up and try to push it forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy to see how many families are affected by
Yeah.
these negligent, or these murders,
I,
negligent.
yeah.
I
It's
mean,
what
we
else
haven't
do you
even
call them?
talked about the negligence really when it comes to machinery,
Oh yeah.
using the proper straps for holding up an engine or something like that.
Oh yeah. Don't even get me started. It's material maintenance management, whatever. 3M in the Navy, so just servicing equipment. It's you have to have these things, and they take it very seriously and inspect and everything else. Unless you just sign off on it, people are always cutting corners, and it's like, guys, here's the thing. There's a certain way to do things, and you have to do it correctly, and you have to do it in this order. And there
There's a
is
reason.
in in a perfect world, yes, there's some wiggle room on this stuff. However, they realize that they're dealing with people who have maybe never done something like this before, and they want it instructions written so a chimp could do this without killing himself. So guess what? We're going to do it the chimp way and make sure, and but of course people cut corners, they don't have all the equipment or whatever else, and well, we got to get it done so we can go home and play video games or drink or whatever. And
Yeah,
And then there's a lot of downward pressure to get it done,
Yep.
to make people look better.
Yep. Yep. Cycle of craziness.
Yeah, yeah, it's bringing back not so
It's
fun
just
memories
like,
for me.
oh yeah, cycle of craziness that it just, one thing leads to another. One ball gets dropped here, another one gets dropped here. Laziness, shirking responsibility. No, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
We'll go get you know, no, don't go get the right strap or whatever from we're about to deploy, but don't go get that right strap. We'll just use this other one here, and then it breaks and it falls on Mason Weber
Yeah.
and crushes him.
Oh my god.
I mean,
Just terrible stuff. It's yeah. It's a big operation. There's a lot of points of failure, and it's a culture of cutting corners that leads to accidents like this. It's not a one-time deal or a one-off deal. It's no, there's an underlying problem, and it needs to be addressed, and people need to take responsibility, and it's not happening, and it, especially in your case, has just absolutely horrifying and tragic results. I'm so sorry.
mhm. Yeah, me too. It's awful to think that I'll never see Caleb again. I mean, he was, my one of my best buddies.
Yeah, well, and
He,
he had his whole life ahead
he was
of him.
he had his whole life ahead of him. The thing I say to him every time I go up to see him is, "I'm sorry, Caleb.
Man.
I'm sorry for your loss." Because his whole life he won't have children. He'll never get to do, um, the things that you would expect a young man to be able to do and grow and live and have a family.
Yeah.
You know, um, all the experiences that he would have been able to have. I mean, who knows where he would have been? I know he would have been. He was definitely career military was his goal.
Hmm.
You know, um,
Yeah, he would have.
and
He was already an impressive soldier, and would have been more so. I,
yeah,
like you say, 19 years old. That's whether if he stayed in the army, he had his whole army career, and let's be honest, another career following that. He would have been younger than 40 if he retired at
mhm,
20 years. More more incredible things ahead for him. Yeah, it's an absolute tragedy and a waste, and
yeah, such a way.
hopefully with your hard work and in obtaining closure for yourself, that you obtain a victory in that this never happens to another military family.
Well, I that would be amazing. That would be amazing. I want to know what they're doing to make sure that it doesn't happen again. So far, the only thing that they've been able to tell me is basically they're throwing back their own protocols.
Okay.
Their standard operating procedures, right?
Yeah,
I'm like,
of
but
course.
that's standard, right? No, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm not asking what your standard operating procedure is. I'm asking what you're going to do about it.
Right, right. Are you going to, oh, I
Like,
don't know, follow it? Didn't seem like you were doing that
I mean,
before.
let's be really specific here because somebody's life was lost.
Yeah.
And it sounds like to me a lot of people's lives are lost under um, the same colonel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he seems like
you
the
got to
Grim
think,
Reaper for
hey,
crying out
leadership
loud.
probably needs to be held accountable here.
Yes. Yeah,
And
name him one more time. Colonel
uh, Colonel Scotty Otan.
Scotty Otan. All
Yeah,
right.
Colonel Owen. Colonel Owen is the one that traveled to Lubbock. Colonel Otan didn't even. He was supposed to show up at Caleb's final review here in Lubbock, and he sent Colonel Michael D. Owens instead.
Interesting.
I
I
thought it was
Did he have
I
more responsibilities at Fort Bragg to shirk off? He
don't
had to
know.
send someone else in his
Yeah,
stead.
maybe he was not. Maybe he wasn't in the states or something. But
Goodness, who knows?
about here I am making excuses for him.
Yeah. Well, yeah, really really disappointing, leadership, if you can even call that, from the army. And again, sorry that you that you went through this, and I sincerely appreciate you coming on and telling your story and getting, continuing the education of people like me who want to learn more about this, and hopefully my listeners as
Yeah.
well. And I'll put all those links in the description, both to like your
Yes. Thank you so much.
chat with TC and in some of the legislation that's coming down because people really need to know more about it.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Also, I have a petition on Caleb's uh, webpage, calebsmither.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's a form letter that people can send out to their representative, and then there's also a petition. And so
Perfect.
people can please sign the petition and please send out a form letter.
Absolutely.
That would really help us a lot. And so thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys. And yeah, just justice for all of our service members, and our veterans. And but yeah, justice for PV2 Caleb Smither.
Amen to that, Heather. Again, thank you so much, and I'll be tweeting out the website and the petition as well, and putting it on Facebook. And again, thank you so much, and please let me know if there's anything I can do.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, guys. Love you guys. God bless America.
God bless.